Welcome to the Tech Panel.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The podcast where tech minds meet.
Oh, hey, before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.
Welcome to the Tech Panel, where we dive into the world of startups, innovation, and emerging technologies. I'm your host, Arvin, and today we have a guest who's been at the forefront of emerging tech for over 20 years, driving innovation across multiple industries. If you're curious about the next frontier of AI and hyperproductivity, this episode is for you. Today, we're joined by Dave Howden, CEO and co-founder of SupaHuman AI, spelled SupaHuman. With a career spanning companies like BT and Pax8 and Umbrella, and now SupaHuman AI, Dave has been helping organizations unlock the full potential of AI. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Well, you know when you get introduced, right, and then they have to spell the name of your company,
Yeah.
I'm now questioning my whole theory of life. But nice to be with you guys. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Let's kick things off with SupaHuman AI. Tell us a bit about the platform, how it's helping New Zealand organization tap into the opportunities of AI, and why are customers supposed to be excited about this solution?
Well, to be honest, I think it's a pretty simple one. I mean, people want to work with experts in their field, I think. And also talent wants to work with talent. And I feel like artificial intelligence as a genre is so hyped that we felt there was a really good opportunity to create a center of mass around the talent pool, people that wanted to flex their muscles on this topic, like engineers and architects and consultants that have been talking about and working in AI before it was cool. And that's what we created at SupaHuman. It's a place where the technology, the people, the processes, and the platforms come together for the purposes of like cutting through hype and getting to the stuff that I think business owners really want, which is shareholder upside, business value, greater customer sat, the stuff that, CEOs dream of. I know, because I am one of them. And we just saw like the middle of last year that there was just, do you guys have a beeper, like a beep thing? I'll call it. There was just a lot of kind of bullshit stuff in the market and like tons of hype. And we just felt that there was a really good opportunity to go, hey, look, this is all about driving down risk, creating efficiency, growing businesses. And how do we create a partner for New Zealand and now Australia and New Zealand to go forward with? Yeah. Similar to what's happened in like every technology revolution. There was the internet service providers took the country to the internet, mobile providers connected us all with mobile, and now it's going to be organizations like us that take people forward to be artificially intelligent. So, yeah.
Who are some of the businesses or the customers that you're working with at the moment, and who are you hoping to I guess, get on board?
Well, we're 9 months old as an entity, so we're pretty fresh, and we're a multi-million-dollar organization. After 9 months in, we've got nearly 30 staff on the payroll, and we're not trying to grow at that pace, if that makes sense. But there's overwhelming appetite for customers to lean into conversations around, okay, just how do I get this done? And that's kind of the thing is, well, what is this? Yep. And clients we've been working with across Australia and New Zealand are the likes of Carpet Court Australia, House of Travel New Zealand, all the way down to brand new startups that are like, hey, look, I've got a traditional set of consulting skills and knowledge that I just can't scale. And now with the advent of technology that can type quicker than you and read faster than you can take that knowledge and essentially put it on steroids for the purposes of creating a brand new set of industries. I do get queried a lot around the AI hype cycle, and I kind of calm everyone's farm by saying, look, we've been here before. There's been big chunks of technology revolution over the past 40 or 50 years, and every time the same things kind of ring true. How do I use this technology to grow, be more efficient, or manage risk? But then also, what new business models get born out of that? And the internet generation essentially rebirthed the stock market. Like, there's businesses that just don't exist anymore because of that technology revolution. And the Magnificent Seven are all internet first companies. We're never going to be around if the internet wasn't invented. And I think we'll kind of see that in the next 10 to 20 years, next couple of decades, of, well, who are going to be the new Mag 7 in a world where there is potential for a one-person billion-dollar business because of the high level of automation. So blows my mind every time I talk about it.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing to think about. Actually, is that it's a whole new revolution, and then a whole new world, and who's going to be at the top in 5 years, 10 years?
And forgive me if I do this, but I constantly deal with people that say, I heard someone explain to me what their business is, and I still just don't understand what they do. So help me understand, and the audience. You say you're SupaHuman AI, and you do things similar, leveraging these AI models, but I don't want them to confuse you with GPT. So how do you distinguish yourself for some of these other tools? What is the unique advantage that your company offers to customers?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And firstly, we're not we're not any one of those things.
Yep.
So we're not a consulting business. We're not a technology shop like a platform business or a SaaS provider.
Mhm.
We provide the people, as in the smart people you need, the processes you need in terms of the IP to demystify, and the platform to be able to create what we call organizational intelligence. And I'll explain I'll explain the distinction between that and ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT is and the technologies that underpin that, the large language model and models that underpin that, it's just bloody magical, right? It's just wonderful until it isn't. As in, it's great at telling dad jokes and summarizing emails and creating a CV for your new job and all that. That's wonderful. But you soon realize pretty quickly that it doesn't know you. It doesn't know your company. It doesn't know your legislative environment. It doesn't know your intellectual property. It doesn't know the compliance standards you need to meet as a person and/or an organization. And then the layers of risk of that become infinite because of the fact that it doesn't know those things. And it's up to you as the prompter to be able to cater for that situation. And correcting for all of those risks is where we come in. We build on top of the large language models like Anthropic and OpenAI and Google Gemini, and put all of the enterprise controls in place so the AI knows your business, your constraints, your legislative environment, your intellectual property, how you work. So the formula is a large language model plus your world, which is everything involved in your business, equals this magical productivity moment where you're making super fast decisions, creating work at speed. And to quote the strapline of our business, you're automating the tedious, which is doing the stuff that you just don't want to do with these 5 digits and these 2 eyes that we have. So on that basis, I'll go back to your original question, which is what do you do? We're a turnkey solution provider for an organization that wants to consume that magic. And we build it, operate it, and manage it for you till the end of time.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That was one of my next questions. Are you ongoing providing that service to manage it and update it and providing
100%.
that?
So full turnkey, you need no experience in your business of AI to consume intelligence that we build for you. You log on to your own private, secure, branded ChatGPT environment, which is enterprise grade. And the beautiful thing is it's still leveraging the tech of the huge providers. We're not building our own models. We're purely controlling them for the purposes of the mid-market. I mean, we play in enterprise and we play down at the small end as well, but that mid-market is where the magic really happens.
Right.
It's those companies that haven't really digitally transformed yet. The enterprises have had the luxury of a massive balance sheet and time. Small business have been consuming SaaS, so they're kind of self-digitally transformed. But that mid-market where they kind of got some systems and they've got old school owner structure and they're the one that there's just huge upside.
Yeah, I can definitely see that
there. And we're feeling, I mean, we're just, industries that we never thought would want to be involved in this conversation are like, okay, we can see it, Dave, let's go.
Yeah, we need it.
Can I try to tie this to a tangible example? And correct me if I'm wrong here. So what you're saying is, let's say you've got a chat bot in your business. Typical model would be someone goes to this chat bot that they want help with and they type in, can't log in. And what they usually get is like a smart thing that says, here's the article that recommends how to solve for login issues. What you're saying is you'll connect this large language model to all of those SOPs. So instead of forcing the user to read that, the system will have the smarts to digest all of the internal documentation you have and give you a curated response that's bespoke to the business that wants to leverage that language model.
So 100%. However, that use case is a very baby use case. That's level 1 capability.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a good starting point,
Mhm.
right? You have knowledge and you want to get an answer, not just be pointed in the right direction.
That's
So it's
right.
a difference between a search engine and an answer engine,
Exactly.
right? That's kind of the jump. But let's all put that on some steroids. Let's do this. You're an engineering company, right? And you've got loads of engineering documentation and you've got loads of engineering measurements. The things that you've done with your physical hands and eyes, and then you need to go and put that into loads of mathematical formulas and write a report for council to put that into a building consent application.
Okay.
That should be no more than write me the consent application, please. And you'll get outputted a 50-page document that's ready to go to council, 0 spelling mistakes, 100% accuracy of mathematical calculations in the format that the council want it. So that's the jump. The leap is, the limitation is to your fingers and your eyes. Anything where you're creating and or reading for the purposes of generation, AI just turns hours and hours into seconds.
That's so cool.
And it's
I do
accurate because
totally-
it's searching this specific area, this specific data that you've told it, this specific template that you've input already, and it
Correct.
works because it knows where to look and it's accurate. That's the big thing, I think, with ChatGPT is it's,
Trolling
it's everything and it's
Yeah.
inaccuracy.
100%.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's brilliant. Yeah.
We're working with a client over your part of the world, a very large retailer who have 80,000 products that they sell. All of them are subject to warranty claims, as in something goes wrong with the product and then they claim a warranty. They have a team of people, a very, very large team that need to be intimately familiar with the standards of those products. So when a consumer turns around and says, hey, look, my product's faulty, they need to go yes or no, you can claim. That is not a job for human beings at all. Firstly, it's soul crushing. Secondly, it's physically and mentally impossible to stay on top of all that information. But you put an AI in the middle and say, hey, look, this product has got this problem wrong with it, and I installed it this way. And the AI will go, no, sir, you are not claiming that warranty because of these reasons. Now that is the automation of tedious work, 100%. So your example was a very good one, but we're saying to clients, think about where you have any constraint with hands and eyes, remove it.
And I quoted you here, something I heard you say before in an article. You said next level hyper productivity and automation. Is that what you're speaking to through the use of those models?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, actually, that's a very good phrase. We used that in the very early days of SupaHuman, and we've moved that to a slightly softer version now, which is freeing smart minds from tedious work. It's the same thing. It's just softer, or smart people doing dumb stuff. Like that's kind of where we go with it. And we're very quick to say that doesn't mean the person is dumb. It purely means, like, who wants to be using these fingers and eyes? Because the constraint is not the idea or the creativity. The constraint is the speed at which you can actually get that creativity to action. And
wait, can I correct you there? I think you said
sure.
Smart people doing dumb stuff. I think what you're implying is dumb people can now do smart stuff.
That too.
I feel like that would be the real
That's as
power,
well,
wouldn't it?
yeah.
Never mind, miscorrect. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Actually,
to
you know
correct.
what? No, it's no. You know what? You've now got me questioning myself, but it's a very good point. If we take the engineering example, right?
Yeah.
The smart part of that is the engineering, right? The actual thinking and the doing of the physical parts of that job.
Yep.
The dumb stuff is the 20 hours it takes to write the report.
Yeah.
Because you've still done the thinking, and the maths is the maths. The outcome is the outcome.
Yep.
So all you're actually doing is giving people 20 hours back in their
day.
week.
Yeah.
That sounds dumb to not do it the smart way. If you're thinking about how many hours you're wasting on that. And a lot of the times we have a pretty robust conversation with people that engage with us and say, what are the use cases for my business? And we're like, well, firstly, your business is your business. You know how it runs, and only you can tell us where you have tedious work in your workflow. If you do have that, we can dig for gold and help you resolve it. But unfortunately, there isn't a magical list of AI use cases that people can go and get off Google and go, right, I want these things to put into play.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of this whole USP thing. And for the last 20 years, people have been saying, if you want a business, you need a unique selling point. Well, that means if you have a unique selling point, every business is different, and therefore your use cases are different. So, that's magic for us because it allows us to learn a lot about how different businesses operate.
Yeah.
There really, though, isn't a magical top 5 use cases for AI other than the fact where have you got people using their eyes and fingers to do stuff?
Yeah.
And can we take away that burden from their day?
Yeah. It's all about, obviously productivity and efficiency is one of the reasons I'm curious to know why you took those two words like out of your, I guess, tagline. Is it because of that pushback from employees and I guess just the general landscape about taking people's jobs, AI's, going to be taking my job, all of that sort of scaremongering?
I think the words productivity get thrown around a lot, and it's very difficult to firstly measure that in terms of like either a cost saving or a revenue output. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder in some ways. There's both qualitative results and there's quantitative results. Our clients are always a mix of both. And also the personalities involved in the decision making are a mix of both. Generally, the CFO kind of characters are like, right, I want to know how many dollars are coming out the P&L. And then you've got, HR and CEO or one way, okay, how does this help me improve customer satisfaction, which is kind of not all tied to one thing. There's a myriad of things that go into that. But also as well, like, I think the word productivity is a lazy marketing term. I don't believe that what people are searching for is more productivity. I think what people are searching for is in three camps. They want to know how they support their growth agenda, how they manage their risk appetite or risk profile, and how they become efficient. And it's just different levels of those things that drive forward. I've never met a business that doesn't want to grow, be more efficient, or have more risk. You know what I mean? Like they're not saying I want to be more risky. Well, one of those three things wants to go up or down. And AI just has quite a big lever to pull in all three of those. And if you look at productivity alone, it only drives the efficiency angle. It doesn't drive risk management and it doesn't drive the growth scenario.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
And I don't want to beat this dead horse, but I know we gave a hypothetical exercise to the engineering company where they could digest all of these manuals and spit out a report for you. Can you relay us back to a specific example where you've already been able to leverage the system in a way that provided meaningful value for a customer? So someone could see.
That example was legitimate.
Oh, that was a legit one. Okay.
That's not a hypothetical. That's a legitimate build project. For House of Travel in New Zealand, we've built AI travel consultants who are to augment their workflow. So instead of a travel consultant needing to search through 10 different systems, a load of websites, look at active bookings, figure out preferences. So imagine this scenario. You are a family of 5 traveling to the UK. You want to go via Singapore. You've got your grandparents with you. One of them's in a wheelchair. You've also got a 2-year-old. Think of how many variables there are in that travel itinerary to cater for all the individual circumstances you need to get to. Now that is a laborious, mundane task because you've got to just go and figure it all out. That's no more than a 10-second piece of work. Preferences in, full itinerary out, recommendations based off review. That is not the chatbot scenario we first talking about, and it's not the huge levels of content generation. It's just a lot of computational decision making at speed to give their customer what is actually a very compelling way to get to the UK. So again, that's a live and kicking use case. We've got ESG reporting engines. We've got a suicide prevention AI. Like there is a whole. We were 100 projects deep into this work, and there is not one theme that, other than the fact, smart people doing dumb stuff, and how do we kind of take that out of the way?
That was you got me thinking about your business model in terms of if it's always from your end, quite hands-on in terms of working with that client, each individual client, and building this for them, or if you can kind of almost copy and paste a few solutions and then tweak it a little bit, like in terms of your workload, building these, are you trying to get to the position where you can, utilize what worked for this industry or these teams and these clients and then replicate it for others? That seems like an efficient way.
Yeah, I mean, logically, you'd say that's a good business model to look at repetition of those scenarios. Actually, it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Our clients' intellectual property is their intellectual property. We build for them.
Okay.
However, here's your angle, which I like. To get to the speed at which you can create that intelligence, there's a myriad of building blocks. How do you create culturally competent AI? How do you create secure and accurate AI? How do you do data integration. There's all the bits, the Lego bits that are needed. The last kind of layer is the bit that the client brings in, which is their IP. So our business model is to create an exceptionally cost-effective way to get highly accurate AI flavoring in your intellectual property.
Got it, yeah.
And so we rinse and repeat for every client because we're bringing all those building blocks.
Perfect.
It's blending that with their world is where the secret sauce comes in. So I'll give you an example. If you were to build some of our outcomes for our clients from scratch, just going and working with Microsoft or AWS tech and just building it from the ground up, you'd be 4 or 5 months in, probably $500,000 of resource. We're 4 to 5 weeks.
Wow.
Cost about probably 60 to 80 grand. So, and that's because we've just done it over 100 times now. And that's what we mean by the people, the process, and the technology.
Yeah, that's great.
Like it's yeah.
So your business is just infinitely scalable, and the more you're growing, and the more clients, and the more experience you've got with it, the quicker you get with it, all of that sort of stuff. The more building blocks you've got.
Probably more cost effective too.
Yeah, for sure.
But there is beauty in the time. I mean, I do think we're obsessed as a human race now with speed and output.
It's that efficiency, actually, productivity, all of that kind of like that race. It's all seems to. It's in the same bucket to me of like faster, quicker, more.
100%. And I personally, I don't like it or really buy it, and that's weird for me to say as a CEO of a tech company. But the reason that I think the part of the secret sauce at SupaHuman is that the process that takes 6 weeks is wholly human led, and it's like we're in with our clients, we're looking at all their workflows, we're unpacking where the pain points are. The majority of the legwork is understanding their business and figuring out how we can turn that into an augmented version, augment their processes with this tech. It's not an IT project. Like it's front and center on the coalface with the client. And that for me is just, you just look at our customers' faces when we kind of show them what's possible, and they're like I get that this, it's so good. But it's not an IT project. And I think that's the key thing for those of you who are thinking about this as it's more of a payroll line item than anything else. IT projects are driven by IT people. Intelligence is a organizational wide initiative. And if you're building an intelligence for your organization that knows it intimately, it can be put to work anywhere. And that is just, I mean, anyway, I'm going into sales.
I love that. That's very, it's so personal and so human centric to build that AI model. I love that element of it, and you can't replicate that in terms of what you're talking about. It really getting to know the feel and the vibe and the structure of that company and what they need, and creating that solution for them. Yeah.
It's the thing is, the company is one part of it, and the company can be one person, it can be 25,000 people, right? And that business has a brand, a tone of voice, a set of values, a way of doing business. It has a cultural competency, like who is it serving internally, who is it serving externally. That's a feeling, and you've used ChatGPT, right? It sounds American, white, salesperson. That's what it's, because it's trained on the internet, majoritively Western world internet. So when you kind of take that and you craft it to your business's language, and it's thinking how you want your people to think, then that's the first level, right? Then you take it a next level down and go, well, sales is different from marketing is different from operations are different from finance. So they have their own language as well.
Yeah, of course.
So we're layering this all the way through an organization, taking the macro view of the brand and then flavoring that with, well, what's material to the sales team, what's material to the operations team, and then giving them control to manage their own personality and tone. And then it's down at your level, like on the ground, like for me and for you. When we onboard people to the SupaHuman platform, it's not only talking in the spirit of the business and the team, but it knows that I'm a CEO at a tech company. Therefore, it's acting in my best interests. But it also knows that my marketing team are marketers. So everything it's doing is in the eye of the user. So if I go and ask my AI to go and give me a summary of the news, it's going to give me the summary of the news that's relevant for a CEO. You do that for marketing, it's going to be very, very different. And that's why we talk about organizational intelligence. It's not just about the company; it's about the whole. It's the individual layered with the company, and that's the direction of travel we're taking at SupaHuman.
Yeah.
You spoke to the fact that it's around $80,000 and you get it in like 4 to 5 weeks. I can imagine there's some people that would hear that and go, oof, that's pretty expensive. But I think when you think in perspective, most of these companies historically, what they're doing is they're applying like a team of IT people, and they're doing the traditional route of creating manual SOPs by hand. And then those IT people don't just have the one job of doing SOPs, they have other day-to-day chores. And this task can take a year or years. And what you're saying here is essentially $80,000, 4 to 5 weeks, and you've got everything you need and more, because it'll provide renewable value to you in a number of different ways, whichever way you want to take the business.
Yeah, you've got it. You're right. I mean, IT projects are just cash killers.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting thing you mentioned around SOPs is that you think about an AI that knows your products, your services, your suppliers. It knows all the information around how your business is put together. Why would you ever write an SOP again? Because they can be written dynamically for you now. So you don't actually need the documentation once you've put the AI together, because it knows all the constituent parts of your business. It knows your change management process, your incident management process. So if I ask it to give me a procedure for changing a light bulb, it's going to go and tell me that to turn the power off, and then to conform to a health and safety policy, and get a ladder and not do it because I'm not trained to go on a ladder. Like, that's the interweaving of all of the parts. We've done a client for a big IT services provider where they had very little standard operating procedures, and we call them dynamic operating procedures because they're built on the fly. Because, well, why make something static when you can make it dynamic? That's the beauty of this stuff when you put it together.
And I want to really figure out what's going on here, especially given the historic trajectory of these language models. And I think back, let's just say over the last year, ChatGPT, I think, has gone through like 5 different iterations, and each one of them was monumental, the next iteration that came out. If you're building language model solutions for businesses today, and the next model comes out that's going to be significantly more valuable, do you feel that there's a risk that the next version will automatically make the previous model and solution that you develop for these businesses redundant?
I think it's a very good question, and I think there's 2 answers. One is we build on top of the capabilities of these language models, and there are things that are independent to the company, and there are things that you can develop for. And the AI providers are developing for the global. They're developing for a mass global collective intelligence, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I kind of think about it this way. If you were to go and grab someone off the street and employ them, and then they had an IQ of 90, you'd still give them all your company information and tell them to get on with their job. If next year you got the same person off the street and they had an IQ of 140, you would do exactly the same thing. Give them your intellectual property and ask them to get on with their job. As these language models get better and better and better, the services that we provide get exponentially more powerful because they're built on top of.
They're on top of.
On top of them.
Yeah.
So the tide rises. The better the underlying intelligence gets, the more powerful the outcome of the services that we provide. And because we are AI agnostic, whether it's OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Gemini, whichever models underlyingly power, we are constantly swapping them in, swapping them out, looking at the best model for the right job. In some instances, multiple models. So we love it when new models come along because it allows us to create more value for our customers.
That's great. And that's, I guess, part of that service, of that ongoing service that you offer. You're constantly, making sure that it's working with the latest iterations of OpenAI or whatever is underneath, and it's constantly updating and it's still working.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally, and I want to make sure I do answer your original question, though. Are there parts of that service which could make the investment that our clients make obsolete? Who knows where this is going? Who knows, right? Because this is happening already. There is software that clients have bought years ago, and not that many years ago, that now you just don't need anymore because of the advent of AI.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of business. So you got to create value to sustain it. And we need to, obviously, we're contracted as the experts in this field to take our customers on that journey. And but the equation kind of stacks up as the underlying large language models get more competent at certain things. Our solutions get, exponentially more competent as well.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to make sure we firm that one up. Typically, my mind goes to the direction of if if you build something for me, here it is, and this is what it is. Are you saying if the language model updates, their system automatically updates? This isn't like we have to rebuild it for the newest iteration of the model that was released?
No, it inherits the capability of the models, and the models get updated as the models change.
Okay, so your solution automatically evolves. I think that's pretty unique
Yeah. Great.
selling
Yeah,
point
100%.
there that I wasn't anticipating. My mind always goes to,
Yeah.
services are how people make money, right? You've got
No.
version 8.
There is, we want to be 100% transparent with you. Just adopting a new model does come with an element of risk. And obviously we have to go through quite a robust regression testing because, for example, when we went from OpenAI's GPT-4 Turbo to 4 and then 4.0 and 4.1, 4.01, you do get slightly different results come back. And they're not always that predictable. And we've got some clients that operate in quite sensitive environments. So we operate a suicide prevention AI service for a client. Obviously, we don't just adopt the latest technology model with that. We have to go through quite a stringent process. But our clients kind of opt in and opt out. If they just want the latest and greatest, we turn it on. Others, it's a kind of an opt-in to decide that they want to move. But we're talking, hours of work, like to do a very good job. And so this is not a let's go and do another $50,000 rebuild whatsoever. It's more the guardrails about how you inflict change versus whether we can. It's some of our clients are listed businesses who can't just pull the trigger like a small startup can. So the cost implications of that are through choice, not because they need to.
Yeah, and that's great, I think, as well, because they've got that option. And as their business grows as well, their needs will change, and then they've got you there to kind of change the model as well, of what they in particular need at that time of their growth. Are there any other competitors, I guess, in New Zealand that are doing this? And I know you talked about point of difference earlier from the customers level, but I guess are there competitors for you and your point of difference?
I think if you look at the economics of starting a business in 2023, 2024, like the economy in both parts of our worlds is not optimal. And for us taking the risk to start a business in an economic downturn is paying off in the fact that, there's not a whole lot of capital around to kind of, drive businesses like this. And we've chosen to structure SupaHuman in a way where we are the people, the process, and the platform. So we're generating cash flows from day one because we offer services business as well as platform. So we're not in the traditional startup space where you're like, right, we need $10 million and we're going to burn it all to survive, which is great. So that's kind of the uniqueness of the position we find ourselves in the market. Of you've got established players like Deloitte, PwC, EY, Datacom, the big SIs, and there's actually a far bigger swag of them over your side of the world than there is over here. And they have got a really, really good place to play. The challenge with those organizations is that they build from the ground up every time, and they build custom every time. And you're talking, I'm going to put numbers out there. They're not real, but it's to give you it's a big number, like, $500,000 to kind of get out of bed to build something of meaningful nature. And for a certain market, that's totally appropriate. However, it's not appropriate for everybody else who can't afford those numbers. And then as you kind of slide down the scale, there really aren't new businesses emerging that are investing in building this kind of capability out. And the traditional IT services channel, so the companies that are managing your Office 365 accounts and all that kind of stuff, like it's a hell of a leap to go from just managing IT to creating human experiences with technology. It's more of an agency kind of feel. So to answer your question, no, there really is. We're in the blue part of the ocean, and that's a great place for us to be. But I don't think it will be long before people are kind of catching us up. To be honest, like the economy's starting to move a little bit, and people are seeing what we're doing, and they'll come after it, which is great. To be honest, I mean, there's plenty of work out there for everybody, and we have a partner program for those who are in the IT industry that just don't want to build this kind of capability, where they've got traditional IT customers, but their customers are saying, "Hey, look, what's this whole AI thing about?" And then they're moving that work onto us, and we're paying them a referral commission model for that because we're not competitive with our traditional businesses.
Yeah, that's brilliant that you've got that kind of niche in that market there and that boutique offering.
I
Yeah.
think though as well, like we did some industry research the early part of this year, and across Australia and New Zealand, it's evident that customers want they want three things. They want to work with specialists, they want to work with people who are local to them in the region, and they also want to work with organizations that are prepared to lean in and understand their business and have not a transactional relationship. Those three things are common across Australia and New Zealand as the three buying, like the buying intent indicators of medium-sized businesses. And that's what we're doing. Like, we've got no aspirations to be a billion-dollar unicorn. We think we can do an exceptionally cool job, have some real good fun on the way, building culturally competent organizational intelligence in this part of the world.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love as well that you touched on, the economic situation at the moment, in Australia and New Zealand. But your business, other businesses kind of investing in your services, you're helping them, from a financial point of view as well, because it might be saving dollars on the ground, people, that sort of thing. So it's almost like almost a little bit recession proof if you think about your services
to an
are
extent.
saving them.
Yeah,
true.
Them funds at the bottom line.
Yeah, to an extent. And I think that the capital investment required to receive quite a significant amount of value is, like I said, $60,000-$70,000. You're building a lot of capability for that money, like a lot. And your payback can be as little as a couple of months if you're pushing on the right pain point.
Yeah,
and that's unheard of in IT return, right? A couple of months to pay back your capex. I mean, that's pretty good.
Well, I think all I can think about is like one staff member. You know what I mean? Like one car, something like that to do that. Yeah.
Your vehicle, Aussies will easily spend upwards of $100,000 on a vehicle, and all that's doing is moving one person from point A to point B, right? And that's they won't even think about twice. Don't think twice about it. But your system is essentially a tool that can be leveraged by literally every single employee and significantly upskill the way they present the business outward to their customers. It'll upskill, the productivity like we talked about before. These are all the good things that come with AI though. And you said, it's like operating in blue water, and that's a really great idyllic place to be. But my mind, when I hear operating in blue water, goes into a different direction. And maybe I do have thalassophobia, fear of open water, but
it could be something to do with it. Don't use the blue water analogy on the tech panel anymore.
I've triggered you. Eh?
I think there's the other end of this though, right? That is the customer perspective of taking on something like GPT. Like, what are the fears? What are the risks of taking on some of these tools in an organization that maybe they should be privy of that you can give a unique lens on?
I think the fears have come from generic services being used for business use, and that's what's fueled a lot of things, right? We'll kind of go on the blue water thing because I kind of obviously we don't want to push on your anxiety too much, right? But when you kind of understand the anatomy of a shark and all that kind of stuff, and what the dangers of the water, you can mitigate for them quite easily. Doesn't mean there's not danger out there. It just means you prepare yourself, you do the right things, you take the right precautions, you work with the right people, you get the right advice, and you realize that you can actually get the benefit of having a great time in the ocean and not being too risky, right? It's the same with AI and the fact that I actually presented at a conference yesterday, and they were like, I use ChatGPT for X reason, and the output was wildly inaccurate. And I was like, well, yeah, because you're using something that is trained on the world's knowledge. And unless you're exceptionally specific about what you ask, you're going to get a world answer. So if you go and ask for tax advice from ChatGPT, unless you're very specific about the country, the state, your specific circumstance.
Even the policy to look at. Yeah.
Exactly. Of course, you're going to get a mix of, well, this was relevant in the UK and this was relevant in Australia and this was relevant in the US, and it's going to kind of give you a muddly answer. But then you think about that if you're working with an AI that's there to give you tax advice, and it knows your situation, it knows your bank account, it knows your tax filings. Well, hell, you're off to the races at that point. So it's, to answer your question, the whole risk comes in from, I think, a little bit of misuse of, it's not the user's fault. They're just using what they've got in front of them. But it's when something is misused or not for its intended purpose, then it sets everybody back. Yeah. And our job is obviously to kind of engineer around that. There are some legitimate concerns that come up a lot. Is AI being trained on my data? And fundamentally, if you use an enterprise model with appropriate contractual mechanisms, no. Can AI be trained on your data? Yes, if they're a bad actor, but by default, all of the major enterprise providers are like, absolutely, you're not going anywhere near that, that concept. But then language gets in the way. Like, what does training mean? Like, but I've told it something and it feels like it knows. I'm like, yeah, well, it's not training. Training is a multi-million-dollar exercise where you run a training program. But an AI being aware of what you told it before, well, that's not training. That's just being aware of what you've told it before. And then at that point, you've lost the conversation because you're getting into a technical, like architectural thing. So I think we're going to go through the same buying cycle that we did with cloud, which was kind of the last technology shift, which was, especially here in New Zealand, I don't trust it because it's in Australia. That just happened. That was a thing. There's too much of a latency between the countries, And then 2 years later, everyone's moved everything to Australia because they just needed to get the competitive advantage of being in the cloud. That's just needed to happen. And I think the same thing's going to happen, is that the policies and the maturity will catch up. And people will realize that, okay, they need to work with a partner to kind of constrain the problems, and then let's go and let's make this thing happen.
Forgive me for indulging these fears. I don't know, maybe this is a bone I just like to chew on. You went through some classic examples of the types of risks you run in using any type of language model, right? Someone might take your data. It may not be trained correctly based on exactly how you want to operate. Maybe let's go down a little bit of a fun exercise here, a bit of fear mongering. Given your unique perspective in the industry, what do you foresee as a potential and legitimate risk in using AI models, even moving into the future?
So not just yours in particular, but AI models in general.
I think it's a really good question. I think we just got to kind of play out the same thing that's happened in kind of every technology like revolution. The internet, for us using it, is a relatively good place because we're good human beings and we search for the right stuff and we're buying holidays and shoes and like, cool, we're having fun doing our stuff on the internet. There's also a very dark side of drug trafficking, people trafficking, just horrific stuff happens on the internet. And you can kind of play this conversation out 15, 20 years ago and, well, what's the dark side of the internet going to happen? And it comes around to, well, what are you going to use it for? And the large language model providers do have the best intent of the consumer at heart. They 100% do. However, that technology in the hands of an organization that doesn't have the best interest can cause some pretty crazy, carnage.
Yeah.
The good news is it takes billions of dollars to be able to get this technology, right? But then the bad news is some of the big providers are making some of these models open source. So you can just kind of get a trained model. So I do think we are going to see bad actors start to use this intelligence for the purposes of, like, imagine phishing emails written by AI, like that knows you intimately and what your weak points are, and to negotiate with you on the fly. You can't tell whether it's a human or not. Like,
that's it.
That's going to get everyone, like in terms of like our ability to detect what's real and what's not. The same for image creation, the same for video creation. At what point can't we distinguish reality from non-reality?
I mean, it's already there in terms of all of those examples. Yeah,
and I
tested
tested
just on a small scale as well. But yeah,
what actually scares me more than anything, it's that scares not the right word. It's just a case of we are running the risk of losing a little bit of human identity in terms of, like, imagine you receive a letter through the post and it's got a picture of you and your partner or whatever cheating on you or whatever, and it's just not real, right? The chaos that causes, the anxiety it creates, and that sort of one-to-one level. You think of that on a geopolitical scale where you've got world leaders, like headlines, it can start wars, right?
Yeah.
And like this isn't just an AI thing. It's just about how people use things to create leverage over other situations, and that I do feel that is an angle that we've not yet fully seen played out yet. And those kind of things, I think, pale into a significance around, someone putting a prompt about their birthday into ChatGPT and it now knows when they were born. Like that. That's we're kind of looking at bigger issues than that. So, but I'm a glass half full guy as opposed to a glass half empty. And I think if you look at all of these technologies, since the dawn of time, there's always been bad actors. There's always been good actors, but the human race as a core is a good thing. We're a good bunch. There's just a few nasty ones in the mix. And we'll protect ourselves on the way through, and we'll figure it out.
There's
do believe
there's
you're
like
right.
it's a moral and ethical, I guess, issue as well around AI, and it comes down to if you're doing it for good, which majority are, and if there's procedures in place, and if you've got the security in place as well for when you're building this platform for your clients, if you've got that security around it to protect them from that sort of.
I think there's quite a significant cultural element to this as well. I mean, from an Australian and a New Zealand perspective, we both work in unique cultural climates, which is actually pretty unique in the whole of the world, and managing indigenous protections for us in this part of the world is just vital. And if you look at New Zealand specifically, the Te Reo Maori it's not a well documented language in the scale that's needed to actually get very accurate AI at all.
Yeah, point.
And the Te Reo it's a wholly spoken language. It's written down, of course, but it's majoritarily spoken. And actually, when you look at what's needed to be able to train AI to be culturally respectful of just that language across the country, it's not there. It's just not. And then therefore, what protocols do we need to maintain to make sure that we actually, the whole of the countries, all the countries and the peoples move forward as one, so we don't create a digital divide or an AI divide, which, as you know, these cultural differences and cultural challenges have been worked through for hundreds of years now. And I think we're in a unique position in this part of the world to make sure that we do, cover off the indigenous protections as we go forward. Because again, productivity should be for everyone, and tedious work happens for everyone. So we should be looking to automate it with everyone in mind.
Yeah, I love that early on you were talking about, what your offering is, and what you were mentioning, that culturally safe, or culturally competent, procedures and services for whatever business you're working in. So
it can be super
it makes
powerful.
sense.
I mean, in terms of looking at cultural competency, if there is a lot of larger organizations have cultural competency programs about how do you weave biculturalism into your business operations, and with AI you can kind of drive the tide up for everyone in terms of language adoption, cultural practice adoption. It's a pretty powerful tool in the right way, but being respectful to the original principles about why we do that in the first place. It's not just a policy to be enforced; it's a legitimate, bicultural approach. And that's kind of a uniqueness of being in this part of the world that I don't think the American tech providers kind of get. It's not all about driving the P&L. It's okay for them, it is, but I sometimes feel like we can get a bit lost in our. It's what's wonderful about this part of the world is that we're a little bit we don't really like the American way too much, especially in New Zealand.
And I would say the same in Australia as well.
That's why I moved here.
Yeah, that's why Arvin's here.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Sorry, I forgot what presence I was in. You're not Canadian, right? You're American.
He's
No,
American,
I only
but
speak freedom.
But
Apologies.
he's very much moved to Australia because he loves it a lot more than
so you,
the
but
American
you get
way.
it, right? We're all of us are in capitalistic markets, but there is a different taste of capital markets and capitalism around here, and that cultural respect, I think, is something that just needs to be. It's a baseline of everything.
And again, that comes with, I guess, you being the human-centric element to the building that you're doing as well is building that in. That's why it's so important to have that human element in the build.
Well, SupaHuman's not about going hard out productivity. It's about being the best version of yourself and bringing that for your organization, and that comes with all of the values that you live and breathe. But anyway, look, you kind of get the picture.
I love that. Yeah, it's great. No, it is, because once you start talking about AI, it almost opens a can of worms. Once you start talking about the moral, ethical conundrum and all of that. So could talk about it all day long.
I do have two last questions for you. We're at the top of the hour here. Looking ahead, I want to understand, what does the future look like for SupaHuman? What should customers be excited about that's coming down the pipe? And the last one, I'll say the last one. Let's take this one first.
Oh, so you go. You can do. Okay, here. Yeah. I was distracted by this little monster. She's
I saw a very cute little dog there
following me around the office.
My hand went to pet it and was sorely disappointed.
So I think the reality is when we sit down with a customer and we say, well, what would it mean if you had like an intelligence at your fingertips that can remove all of these mundane things? They look at that and they go, well, I can see a million things that this could help me on. And it's going to take time for all of that to embed into just a business's workflow over time. I'm looking forward to that transition, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what people deploy that time onto. As in, like, just because of email, right? I'm not doing any less work. I'm just typing more emails, and it's going to be the same thing with AI. Just because I can do everything 20 times faster doesn't mean I'm going to do less work. I'm just going to be 20 times the amount of stuff.
That's right.
And I'm interested to see how that time's kind of deployed back. I'm really interested in the business models that people are going to imagine out of the back of this, because we don't know what it's going to look like yet. But the biggest thing is from a customer perspective, like right on the customer. I don't think they know yet how revolutionary this is going to be for them, and I just can't wait to see that unfold and just see the weight lift off people's shoulders as it just gives them. There's just so many things that have never been able to be automated, and especially in the mid-market. And now it's just all of these opportunities are coming alive, and it's not a technology conversation. It's like, I just don't want to type that stuff anymore. Okay, cool. We'll get AI to generate it for you. It's pretty cool. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
What I'd love to see from, a product like yours is, I guess, allowing for the employee to have time for creativity, or to allow the business to have time to work on the business rather than in the business. More of that opening up time, take away the tedious tasks, and have more time for creativity and innovation and generating ideas. Because when you get stuck in the day-to-day, that stuff gets squashed.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much potential for that.
Actually, you raise a good point. So, we talked about AI that's personalized to you and your team and your company. So we actually flip it around, and we're suggesting work to the user, not to do work, but we know what their job description is. So therefore we know what they're not doing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not creating space for creativity, but it's a case of, have you thought about this? What about that? And we're not trying to get them to do more work. What we are saying is you're actually paid to do something. And just because you're busy doesn't mean you're doing your job. And I think there's an opportunity there for us to scratch on a little bit more about how do we provoke that creative thinking for them, maybe, okay, that's a good one.
Throw
it in the backlog.
Thought that I've got. That's how I would, if I could free up some time when I was working with some teams or leading some teams. If we got rid of the tedious tasks, we could work on really, or improving processes or improvement, when you just get stuck on the day-to-day.
Well, we actually had a team offsite yesterday doing our Q3 planning, and obviously we have our own AI that knows our business intimately, and we've done. We just said, cool, we'll write as a 40 question quiz for a staff offsite that covers all of the things that have happened at SupaHuman in the last quarter. And it's like, what customers have we added? What features got released? How many clients have we got? What was our revenue? And it was just, we didn't have to put it together. It was just all of the bits that we knew for the purposes of a team engagement. Now that's pretty lightweight, but you can kind of push on that, as far as you want to go.
Yeah, that reflection and then improvement. And that builds. And those, because I think just there's so much comes from those opportunities. Because then it leads to, you hear so many businesses that talk about, it was one conversation over beers that sparked this or sparked this, and it's that sort of stuff that I think when you've got productivity and efficiency and you're driving employees to just work harder and harder and harder, and they're not having any of that time for growth or for creativity or for idea generation and things like that. So I think that's the thing that I think would be amazing from this.
Okay. Watch this space, then we'll see what we can do for you.
Love it.
We will be watching this space.
Yes.
We've got a minute left, but the last question we always like to leave our panelists is there a particular piece of technology that's had a big impact on your life or the business, and it cannot be GPT?
No. So here's an interesting fact for you. I was the first person to make a video call in the UK back when I was 16 years old. Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with the UK. There's a company called Orange UK. They're the big mobile phone company. Yeah. So I did an apprenticeship with them, came out of school and went straight into engineering. And I was the first person as an apprentice I was on the other end of the first 3G phone call.
That's so cool.
In the test bed that came in. And that job, that whole, like the birthing of connectivity from a 2G, 3G network and the people getting their first mobile phone, really, that kind of set me off in this like technology, mobile phones, into cloud, into AI. And I was just like, man, like this stuff's just wildly, just technology as a discipline is just, you just don't know what's going to happen next.
No, you don't.
And at that moment, I think was just, just a moment of like, okay, this is where I'm going to stay for the rest of my professional days. And now it's just water off a duck's back, right? People FaceTiming 12,000 miles away and it's perfect clarity. We're having this, zero latency, high definition from, 3,000 miles away, whatever. But that was a pivotal moment. Like that first thing, I was like, yeah, this is cool as, let's go.
Before we finish, I just want to ask one question. Like, what gets you up in the morning? What drives you? Because you're obviously very passionate about what you're doing. What is that driver?
So right now, behind me, there's 20 or so guys with PhDs in machine learning and AI building stuff that they don't think is possible, right? They're just trying to figure out what the next thing is of how they do it. Every time a client turns around and says, can you do this? We're like, well, we think we can. Let's go and make it happen. That whole engineering piece we talked about before, this was about 6 weeks ago. And the guys who work on, they are the leading people in these industries. They're running around the office, high-fiving each other because they're like, I can't believe we've managed to make that happen. And it's just good engineering. And we've got people paying us to break new ground. And that's like, it's so cool. I've never earned less money and I've never had more fun. But that's the job of a founder.
Yes.
And that's the kind of people we have at SupaHuman. They get it, they want it, they've got the capability to flex their muscles, and we want the hard problems. Organizational intelligence is one thing, doing all the component parts, but like that deep automation with GenAI, which is where you get the big levers. That's what that's industry changing.
Yeah. Oh, that satisfaction. Stuff, I can't imagine what that would feel like to get that breakthrough and to come up with it and solve those problems.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And the flip side to that is I've got a 2-year-old daughter who doesn't care at all. So I kind of get the youngster position. She just she kind of grounds me instantly of like how excited, some of the adrenaline they get from this stuff. But I mean, that's kind of just keep figuring out the art of the possible. And that doesn't mean it's not keep figuring out the art of the possible. It doesn't mean it's difficult necessarily. It's just like there's just new things available for us to try now.
I love it. Well, your excitement and your passion is infectious. Like I'm excited sitting here. Like I'm just really pumped. So it's incredible what you've created, and I love your drive for it, and the fact that you're thinking about so many different things when you're working with these businesses as well, and creating this boutique product for them. I've loved chatting with you today.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, you guys stay safe out there, and let us know when you want to check in again. We'll give you a temperature check.
I love it.
Sounds great.
Have
Thanks,
a great
Dave.
day.
Cool.
Appreciate your time, mate.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Me again. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tech Panel. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected. A big thank you to our major sponsor, TraffTrack, for powering today's episode, and join us again on the next episode of the Tech Panel, where tech minds meet.